The laughter echoed through the crystal halls of Nova Station as Ambassador Wrath finished his annual report. His audience of representatives from across the galaxy wiped tears from their various optical organs, finding endless amusement in the primitive antics of Earth's inhabitants. The holographic display showed grainy footage of humans still using wheeled vehicles and burning fossil fuels for energy. "Remarkable," wheezed Senator Vortex, his purple tentacles quivering with mirth. 1,000 years of contact and they still haven't figured out basic energy conversion. My hatchlings could build better technology with their egg teeth. Wrath nodded solemnly, though inside he felt a strange unease he couldn't quite place. Something about the human reports always felt off, like a puzzle missing crucial pieces. But the evidence was overwhelming. Earth remained a backwater world, its people divided into squabbling nations that fought over water and minerals, while the rest of the galaxy had moved beyond such primitive concerns centuries ago. Their latest achievement, Wrath continued, calling up another hologram, is a space station that requires constant resupply missions just to keep 3 humans alive. Meanwhile, the Centauri Collective houses millions in their orbital cities. More laughter rippled through the assembly. The Draconi delegate, General Thane, stood with his scaled arms crossed. His species had conquered 40 worlds in the past decade alone, expanding their empire through superior technology and tactical brilliance. The idea that humans could pose any threat was absurd. "Perhaps it's time to put them out of their misery," Thane suggested, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. The Draconi Empire could use another agricultural world. Earth's biosphere would suit our needs perfectly after we relocate the native population to more appropriate reservations. The suggestion drew murmurs of approval. After all, what could a species that still used chemical rockets possibly do against plasma cannons and energy shields? The humans had been given 1,000 years to advance, and they had squandered every opportunity. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Emma Hayes brushed dust from an ancient data core buried deep beneath the ruins of what surface records claimed was a failed research facility. The morning sun cast long shadows through the excavation site, but Emma paid no attention to the warmth on her shoulders. Her focus remained locked on the strange symbols etched into the metallic surface. "This doesn't match any known human language," she muttered, running her fingers over the engravings. Her archaeological team had been exploring the site for months, initially drawn by energy readings that made no sense according to conventional science. The deeper they dug, the more mysterious the artifacts became. Her assistant, Tom, emerged from the shadows carrying another data core. This one hummed with residual energy, despite being buried for what carbon dating suggested was nearly a millennium. "Professor, you need to see this. The internal structure isn't just advanced, it's impossible. The molecular arrangement defies every law of physics I know." Emma accepted the core, feeling its unusual weight. The surface remained cool despite the energy readings, and when she held it up to the light, patterns seemed to shift within its crystalline structure. It reminded her of something she'd seen in classified xenotechnology reports, but those dealt with alien artifacts far beyond human capability. "Tom, I want you to run a full spectrum analysis on this, but keep it quiet. Don't file any reports through official channels until we understand what we're dealing with." As her team worked, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled onto something monumental. The energy signatures were unlike anything in the archaeological record, yet they were clearly of human origin. The question that haunted her was simple. How had humanity created technology that surpassed current galactic standards 1,000 years ago, then apparently forgotten about it entirely? Meanwhile, in the gleaming towers of the Galactic Council, headquarters, Ambassador Wrath reviewed his files on humanity one more time. The inconsistencies that had bothered him for years seemed more pronounced now. Human energy consumption patterns didn't match their reported industrial capacity. Their communication network showed traffic volumes that suggested a much larger population than official counts indicated. Most puzzling of all, certain regions of Earth remained completely off limits to galactic observers, protected by what humans claimed were environmental preservation zones. Computer, show me all requests for detailed surveys of Earth in the past century, Wrath commanded. The holographic display populated with hundreds of entries, each one denied by human authorities for various reasons. Radiation hazards, protected ecosystems, ongoing archaeological work, military exercises. Always something preventing close examination of key areas. Show me energy anomalies in the Sol system. New data streams appeared, revealing gravitational fluctuations that suggested massive structures hidden within asteroid belts and planetary rings. The official human explanation was natural phenomena and sensor malfunctions, but Wrath's experienced eye recognized the signatures of large-scale construction projects. His unease deepened into genuine concern. Either humanity was hiding something significant, or they were receiving help from an unknown source. Both possibilities violated fundamental assumptions about Earth's place in the galactic hierarchy. Across the galaxy, General Thane stood before a tactical display showing the Draconi, Empire's latest expansion plans. Earth appeared as a small blue dot at the edge of their projected territory, helpfully color-coded as minimal resistance expected. His admirals were already discussing the most efficient way to subdue the human military, which intelligence, reports suggested, consisted mainly of primitive aircraft and seagoing vessels. How long would it take to position the Third Fleet in their system? Thane asked his chief strategist. 6 months for a full deployment, General. Though, frankly, a single battle group should be sufficient. Our smallest frigates outgun their most advanced warships by several orders of magnitude. Thane nodded, but something nagged at him. In 40 campaigns, he had learned to trust his instincts, and those instincts were telling him that this conquest might not be as straightforward as it appeared. The humans had survived contact with galactic civilization for 1,000 years without being absorbed or destroyed. That suggested either remarkable luck or hidden strengths. Prepare the Third Fleet, but I want full reconnaissance before we commit to any action. Something about this situation doesn't feel right. Back on Earth, Emma's team made their breakthrough. The data core contained files encrypted with algorithms that shouldn't have existed until the current century. When Tom finally cracked the security protocols, what they found changed everything. Project Sleeper, Emma read aloud from the translated files. Initiated in response to confirmed extraterrestrial contact. Primary objective: maintain strategic ambiguity regarding human technological capabilities while establishing defensive positions throughout local galactic region. The implications hit her like a physical blow. The primitive image that humanity projected to the galaxy wasn't backwardness, it was camouflage. But camouflage for what? The maintenance worker floating outside Titan Station noticed it first. What should have been a routine cargo hauler moving supplies between Earth and Mars had just traveled the distance in 4 hours instead of the usual 6 weeks. The ship's hull bore the faded markings of the Terran commercial fleet, but its engine signature was unlike anything in the public databases. Control, this is Maintenance Bay 7, the worker radioed, trying to keep the confusion from his voice. I'm showing impossible velocity readings on cargo vessel Delta 9. Either our sensors are malfunctioning or that ship just broke every law of physics. The response came back quickly, perhaps too quickly. Maintenance 7, disregard those readings. Delta 9 is operating under experimental drive protocols. Nothing to log in your official reports. Below on Earth's surface, the illusion continued. Cities sprawled across continents, their populations burning fossil fuels and struggling with the same energy crises that had plagued humanity for centuries. But in the asteroid mining facilities of the belt, work crews were pulling impossible yields from rocks that should have been nearly depleted. A single asteroid that conventional surveys rated as containing perhaps a ton of rare metals produced hundreds of tons of materials that didn't appear on any periodic table. Mining supervisor Paul Rivers watched the latest extraction reports with growing bewilderment. His crews were using the same equipment they had for decades, following the same procedures, yet their productivity had increased by factors that defied explanation. The minerals they extracted were processed in facilities that looked primitive from the outside but somehow produced alloys of incredible purity and strength. The refineries are working at maximum capacity, his foreman reported. But boss, I've been doing this job for 20 years, and I've never seen anything like what's coming out of those furnaces. This stuff is stronger than anything the Galactic standard lists. Paul nodded absently, his attention focused on the deeper mystery. The mining consortium's financial records showed payments to dozens of shell companies with no clear purpose. Supply manifests listed equipment orders that never arrived at the facilities. Most puzzling of all, his security clearance had been upgraded 3 times in the past year, yet he still couldn't access certain areas of his own mining stations. At the diplomatic reception on Nova Station, Ambassador Wrath circulated among his colleagues, listening for any mention of unusual activities in human space. The evening's entertainment featured traditional music from a dozen worlds, but Wrath found it difficult to concentrate on the festivities. His investigation into Earth's energy anomalies had yielded more questions than answers. The human representative, David Kim, approached with his characteristic bumbling charm. The man had served as Earth's ambassador for nearly a decade, during which time he had gained a reputation for harmless incompetence. His tendency to ask naive questions and make embarrassing cultural mistakes had become legendary among the diplomatic corps. Ambassador Wrath, David said warmly, nearly spilling his drink in the process. I was hoping to discuss the latest trade proposals. My government is particularly interested in your quantum field generators. Wrath studied the human carefully. Those generators operate on principles that require advanced understanding of subatomic mechanics. I wasn't aware that Earth had developed the theoretical framework necessary to utilize such technology. David laughed nervously, a gesture that had become his trademark. Oh, you know how it is. Our scientists are always making lucky guesses. Just last week, one of our researchers accidentally discovered a new approach to dimensional folding while trying to improve our primitive fusion reactors. The words hit Wrath like cold water. Dimensional folding was cutting-edge theory that only the most advanced civilizations had begun to explore. For a human to mention it casually, even as a lucky guess, suggested knowledge that contradicted everything in the official reports. That's quite remarkable, Wrath replied carefully. Perhaps your scientists could share the details with our research academies. Such discoveries could benefit the entire galactic community. David's eyes, which had seemed guileless moments before, flickered with something that might have been calculation. I'm afraid the research is still in very early stages. You know, how secretive our scientists can be about unfinished work. As David moved away, Wrath made a mental note to request detailed information about Earth's recent scientific developments. The human's casual mention of advanced physics had been either an incredible slip of the tongue or a carefully planted seed of information. Either possibility was troubling. Deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, Chancellor Elizabeth Ward reviewed the latest intelligence reports in a command center that officially didn't exist. The vast facility stretched for miles through the ocean floor, its existence hidden by holographic camouflage that projected the appearance of empty seabed to any scanning attempts from above. The Draconi Empire is mobilizing, reported Intelligence Director Morgan Ross. General Thane has requested deployment authorization for his 3rd Fleet. Their target appears to be our local system. Ward nodded calmly. She had been expecting this development for months. The careful balance between maintaining humanity's cover and protecting the galaxy's younger species was becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. Every year brought new challenges as more civilizations developed the technology to probe deeper into human space. How long do we have before they arrive? Ward asked. 6 months, possibly less if they decide to accelerate their timeline. Our monitoring stations detected increased activity around their primary shipyards 3 weeks ago. Ward turned to the massive holographic display that dominated the center of the command room. It showed not just the Sol system as the galaxy knew it, but the true extent of human infrastructure. Hundreds of hidden facilities dotted the asteroid belt, disguised as mining operations but actually serving as defensive installations. The moon itself housed the primary coordination center for humanity's galactic monitoring network. Begin Phase 2 preparations, Ward ordered. It's time to let some of our capabilities show, not everything, but enough to make them reconsider their assumptions. Ma'am, that could compromise the entire project. We've maintained operational security for nearly 1,000 years. Ward smiled grimly. The Void Hunters are only 2 centuries away from the galactic rim. We can't protect the galaxy if we're enslaved by one of its member species. Better to reveal ourselves partially now than to lose everything later. Meanwhile, on a Draconi heavy cruiser approaching human space, Captain Rex Thorne reviewed the tactical assessments of Earth's defenses. According to galactic intelligence, humanity possessed no energy shields, no plasma weapons, and no faster-than-light communication networks. Their most advanced warships were chemical-propelled vessels that would be destroyed by a single shot from his cruiser's secondary batteries. "Sir, we are detecting unusual energy signatures from the human asteroid belt," his sensor officer reported. "The patterns don't match known mining operations." Thorne frowned. "Define unusual." "The energy output is significantly higher than their reported industrial capacity should allow. Also, some of the asteroids appear to be moving, not in natural orbits, but in controlled patterns." The captain moved to the sensor station, studying the readings himself. The data was confusing, showing energy signatures that seemed to phase in and out of detection range. Either the sensors were malfunctioning, or something in human space was operating with stealth technology that surpassed Draconi military standards. "Continue monitoring, but don't alter course. If the humans have been hiding defensive capabilities, we need to know the extent before we commit to any aggressive action." Back on Earth, Dr. Emma Hayes stood in a chamber that shouldn't have existed. The excavation of the ancient facility had revealed rooms that extended far deeper than initial surveys had indicated. The architecture was human, but the technology, embedded in the walls, operated on principles that her education hadn't prepared her to understand. "The power source appears to be drawing energy directly from quantum fluctuations," Tom reported, his voice filled with awe. "This isn't just advanced technology, Professor. This is technology that makes our current theoretical limits look primitive." Emma ran her hand along a control panel that responded to her touch with displays of information in multiple languages, including several that weren't in any database of human script. The facility wasn't just old, it was part of a network that spanned the globe. Ground-penetrating radar had revealed similar structures beneath major cities on every continent. "How many people know about this?" she asked quietly. "Just our team, and we're all bound by security agreements we didn't even know we signed until today." Emma nodded, understanding finally dawning. The archaeological expedition hadn't been a coincidence. They had been guided here, recruited without their knowledge to help maintain humanity's greatest secret. The primitive civilization that the galaxy saw was just the surface layer of something far more complex and powerful. The question was no longer what humanity was hiding, but why they were hiding it. And as she looked at the displays showing star charts that included regions of space no human expedition had supposedly ever visited, Emma began to understand that the answer might determine the survival of every species in the galaxy. Admiral Voss had conquered 12 star systems in his career, but nothing had prepared him for what happened when the Draconi Third Fleet entered the Sol system. The initial approach went exactly as planned. Long-range sensors showed the primitive human infrastructure exactly where intelligence reports had indicated. A few orbital stations, some basic mining operations in the asteroid belt, and the blue-green world that would soon fly the Draconi banner. The first sign of trouble came when his flagship's proximity alarms began screaming warnings about objects that weren't supposed to exist. What had appeared to be simple asteroids suddenly shifted position, revealing themselves as massive defensive platforms bristling with weapons that bent light itself around their barrels. "Evasive maneuvers!" Voss shouted, but his helmsman was already throwing the ship into a desperate spiral as beams of impossible energy lanced through the space where they had been moments before. The human defenders didn't announce themselves or demand surrender. They simply attacked with weapons that seemed to ignore the fundamental laws of physics. Draconi battlecruisers, protected by energy shields that could deflect the output of small stars crumpled like paper as human fighters phased through their hulls and struck from within. "Sir, the enemy ships are moving through our shields as if they don't exist," his tactical officer reported, his voice cracking with disbelief. "Our weapons can't lock onto them. They're shifting between dimensions." Voss watched in horror as his fleet, the pride of the Draconi military, was systematically dismantled by an enemy that shouldn't have been able to challenge a single one of his frigates. The humans weren't just defeating them. They were doing it with technology that made the Empire's finest achievements look like stone knives and bear skins. In the command center beneath the Pacific, Chancellor Ward watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. The holographic display showed every ship in the Draconi fleet, their positions tracked by sensors that existed in folded space beyond the reach of conventional detection. Humanity's defensive network had been waiting for this moment for centuries. "Send a message to all fleet commanders," Ward ordered. "Full spectrum reveal, but maintain weapon discipline. We want them to surrender, not turn this into a massacre." Across the galaxy, the facades began dropping. Underground cities that had been hidden beneath Earth's surface for a millennium rose through concealed access points, their spires reaching into the sky with architecture that combined human aesthetics with technology that could manipulate gravity itself. The moon, which alien surveys had always shown as a dead rock, split open like a flower to reveal the largest artificial structure ever created by any galactic civilization. On Nova Station, Ambassador Wrath received the transmission that changed everything. Chancellor Ward appeared on his screen, no longer hiding behind the pretense of primitive human technology. Behind her stretched a command center that made the Galactic Council's most advanced facilities look like crude workshops. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Ward began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had never been the simple representative of a backward world. "For 1,000 years, humanity has maintained the illusion of weakness and division. This deception was not born from cowardice, but from necessity." The holographic display behind her showed charts that revealed the true scope of human expansion. Hidden colonies existed in systems that weren't supposed to have been explored. Defense installations dotted trade routes that every galactic civilization depended upon. Most shocking of all, human monitoring stations had been operating in the home systems of every major power, watching and protecting them from threats they had never detected. "Every species in this galaxy exists today because humanity chose to remain in the shadows," Ward continued. "While you laughed at our primitive technology, our ships were patrolling your borders. While you mocked our inability to achieve faster-than-light travel, our engineers were building the defensive networks that kept you safe." Ambassador Wrath felt his world shift beneath him. Every assumption about humanity's place in the galactic order had been wrong. The primitive species that couldn't even manage their own planet had been protecting civilizations that spanned hundreds of worlds. On the surface of Earth, Dr. Emma Hayes emerged from the hidden facility to find a world transformed. Cities that had appeared to be struggling with basic infrastructure were revealing their true nature. Buildings that had seemed constructed from primitive materials reconfigured themselves, displaying technology that made the most advanced alien architectures look simple by comparison. The sky itself had changed. What had appeared to be empty space now showed the outlines of massive structures in high orbit, hidden until this moment by holographic camouflage that existed partially outside normal space-time. Earth wasn't a backward world barely managing to support its population. It was the command center for the largest military installation ever constructed. "Professor," Tom called, pointing to the horizon where something impossible was happening. The ocean was parting, revealing structures that rose from depths that should have crushed them under pressure that could flatten mountains. Ships emerged from the water, but they weren't the primitive vessels that surface humanity had always displayed. These were craft that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their hulls shifting between solid matter and pure energy as they rose into the sky. Dr. Hayes realized that her entire life had been spent studying artifacts that were never lost or forgotten. They had been carefully placed for her to find, part of a gradual revelation that would help surface humanity understand their true heritage. Every archaeological discovery that had seemed to contradict the official timeline had been a breadcrumb, leading to this moment. In the asteroid belt, what the galaxy had taken for simple mining operations revealed their true purpose. The massive installations weren't extracting minerals from space rocks. They were the manufacturing centers that had been producing the technology that protected every world in the galaxy. The primitive human industrial capacity that barely met their own needs was camouflage for production facilities that could equip armies spanning dozens of star systems. Captain Ryan Torres commanded the first human dreadnought to decloak in galactic space. The Prometheus had been waiting in folded dimensions just beyond the edge of the Draconi formation, invisible to every sensor technology known to galactic science. As it phased back into normal space, its massive bulk dwarfed the alien battleships that had thought themselves invincible. "This is Captain Torres of the Terran Defense Force," he broadcast on all frequencies. "To the Draconi fleet, you have entered protected space with hostile intent. Stand down your weapons and prepare to be escorted from this system." Admiral Voss stared at the human ship in disbelief. The vessel was larger than his entire battle group combined, and the energy readings his sensors were detecting defied comprehension. Weapons that could crack moons were mounted alongside defensive systems that seemed to exist partially outside the normal flow of time. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender terms," his communications officer reported. "The humans are offering to escort us to the edge of their space with no further hostile action if we agree to immediate withdrawal." Voss looked around his bridge at the faces of officers who had never known defeat. The pride of the Draconi, military had been reduced to begging for mercy from a species they had intended to enslave. The humiliation was complete, but the alternative was annihilation. "Signal the fleet," he ordered quietly. "We surrender." Across the galaxy, the revelation continued to unfold. Every primitive human outpost that other species had dismissed as barely functional revealed itself as a sophisticated monitoring station. Every bumbling human diplomat like David Kim dropped their careful disguises, showing themselves to be among the finest strategic minds their species had produced. The galaxy that had mocked humanity for 1,000 years suddenly understood that they had been protected by the very species they had considered failures. The Watchers who had remained hidden in the shadows were stepping into the light, and their true strength was beyond anything any galactic civilization had imagined possible. But as Chancellor Ward prepared to address the full Galactic Council, long-range sensors detected something that made even humanity's vast preparations seem insufficient. At the edge of the galaxy, massive objects were approaching from the void between stars, and their energy signatures matched no known form of life or technology. The real war was about to begin. The transmission reached every inhabited world in the galaxy simultaneously, broadcast through communication networks that no one had known existed. Chancellor Ward appeared on screens from the core worlds to the outer rim territories. Her image, crystal clear despite the impossible distances involved. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, her words carrying weight that silenced entire civilizations. "What you witnessed in the Sol system was not the revelation of humanity's true strength. It was merely the lifting of a curtain that has hidden our purpose for a millennium." Behind her, the holographic display showed images that chilled even the most advanced alien scientists. Long-range sensors positioned at the galaxy's edge were detecting massive structures moving through the void between galaxies. The objects were geometric in their perfection, each one the size of a small moon, but their surfaces absorbed all electromagnetic radiation in ways that suggested technology beyond current understanding. "The Void Hunters have returned," Ward continued. "Our species has spent 1,000 years preparing for this moment, not because we sought conquest, but because we alone detected their approach centuries before any other civilization developed the sensors capable of such detection." The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the scope of humanity's deception became clear. Every primitive aspect of human civilization had been carefully constructed to hide the truth. Earth was not a backwater world struggling to join galactic society. It was the command center for the most sophisticated defense network ever conceived, built specifically to protect species that didn't even know they needed protection. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Torres studied the incoming data streams with growing concern. The Void Hunter scout ships were already probing the galaxy's outer defenses, testing response times and analyzing the defensive capabilities of various civilizations. What they found would determine how quickly the main invasion force would advance. "Sir, we're detecting energy signatures from the Kepler sector. his sensor officer reported. 3 Void Hunter scouts have engaged the Centauri defense grid. The tactical display showed the encounter in real time. The Centauri Collective's most advanced battle stations, equipped with plasma weapons that could vaporize asteroids, fired everything they had at the approaching scout ships. The alien vessels absorbed the attacks without any visible damage, then responded with weapons that didn't just destroy the stations, but seemed to consume them entirely. Energy consumption patterns suggest they're converting matter directly into usable power, Torres observed grimly. They're not just destroying our defenses, they're feeding on them. The horrifying efficiency of the Void Hunter technology became apparent as more reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Entire star systems that had stood as monuments to advanced civilization were being systematically harvested, their energy stripped away to fuel the approaching invasion fleet. In the depths of Earth's Pacific Command Center, Chancellor Ward coordinated humanity's response with a calm that belied the magnitude of the crisis. The chamber around her hummed with activity, as thousands of officers managed defensive networks that spanned half the galaxy. Every human installation that had masqueraded as a primitive outpost was revealing its true function as a strategic stronghold positioned to protect the galaxy's most vulnerable worlds. Status report on the dimensional anchors, Ward requested. All stations report ready, Chancellor, replied Admiral Foster, her chief of staff. The network has been in place for 8 centuries. If the Hunters try to phase shift around our defenses, they'll find themselves trapped in normal space. Ward nodded, remembering the cost of building those anchors. Entire generations of humans had lived and died in the hidden cities beneath Earth's surface, sacrificing normal lives to construct the weapons and defenses that might save species who had never known they existed. The galaxy's mockery had been painful, but it had also been necessary. Pride was a luxury that Guardians couldn't afford. On Nova Station, Ambassador Wrath watched the incoming intelligence reports with a mixture of awe and terror. The Void Hunters were consuming entire civilizations faster than evacuation efforts could save them. Worlds that had stood for millennia were being reduced to empty husks in a matter of hours. "How long have you known?" he asked David Kim, who had dropped his bumbling diplomat act entirely. "Our deep space monitors detected their approach 937 years ago," Kim replied. "We've been preparing ever since, building defenses that could protect the galaxy while maintaining the illusion that we were too primitive to be worth the Hunters' immediate attention." Wrath stared at the human representative with new understanding. "You sacrificed your entire civilization's reputation to protect species that laughed at you." "Not sacrificed," Kim corrected. "Invested. A galaxy full of strong, independent civilizations is worth more than human pride. Besides, the Hunters have one crucial weakness. They underestimate prey they consider technologically inferior. Our apparent primitiveness has been our greatest asset. The first major battle came sooner than anyone expected. A Void Hunter harvester ship the size of a space station appeared in the Vegan system, beginning the systematic consumption of the 3 inhabited worlds. The vegan defense fleet, equipped with the most advanced weapons in their arsenal, managed to scratch the alien ship's hull before being absorbed into its growing energy matrix. Humanity's response was swift and devastating. 3 human dreadnoughts phased into the system simultaneously, their dimensional drives allowing them to appear inside the Void Hunter's defensive perimeter. The weapons they unleashed weren't based on any technology the galaxy recognized. Instead of energy beams or projectile weapons, they fired concentrated space-time distortions that folded reality around their target. The Void Hunter ship, which had seemed invincible moments before, found itself trapped in a collapsing pocket of space-time. Its desperate attempts to escape only accelerated the process, until the massive vessel imploded into a singularity that winked out of existence entirely. "Target eliminated," Captain Torres reported. "Beginning recovery operations for vegan survivors." The rescue ships that emerged from folded space were unlike anything in the galactic databases. They phased partially into higher dimensions, allowing them to extract survivors from worlds that were being consumed by Void Hunter technology. Within hours, the entire vegan population had been relocated to protected worlds deeper in the galaxy. But for every victory, the Hunters adapted. Their next wave of ships arrived equipped with countermeasures designed to neutralize human space-time. Weapons. The war that humanity had spent centuries preparing for was beginning in earnest, and the outcome was far from certain. Dr. Emma Hayes stood in the transformed command center that had once been buried beneath Earth's surface. The archaeological site that had revealed humanity's secrets was now part of a vast network of facilities that monitored every sector of the galaxy. The displays around her showed the true scope of the conflict. Hundreds of Void Hunter ships, advancing through dozens of star systems, consuming everything in their path. "The Outer Rim colonies are requesting immediate evacuation," reported one of the technicians. "Civilian populations are fleeing toward the core worlds." Emma watched, the refugee streams flowing through space. Entire civilizations abandoning worlds their ancestors had called home for thousands of years. The galaxy that had seemed so vast and powerful just weeks before was revealed to be fragile and vulnerable in the face of an enemy that viewed all organic life as nothing more than fuel. "How many ships do we have in position to intercept the main hunter fleet?" she asked. 47 dreadnoughts, 312 cruisers, and over 2,000 fighters," came the reply. "But intelligence estimates the Hunter main force includes over 500 capital ships, each one equipped with technology that adapts to our weapons." Emma nodded grimly. Humanity had spent a millennium preparing for this war, but the enemy they faced had been perfecting their techniques for far longer. The Void Hunters weren't just invaders. They were a force of nature that had consumed galaxies before the Milky Way had even formed its first stars. As she watched the tactical displays update in real time, Emma realized that humanity's greatest deception was about to face its ultimate test. The species that had hidden in the shadows for 1,000 years would either save the galaxy or watch it burn. There would be no middle ground in the war that was coming. The final battle began not with fanfare or declarations, but with the simple fact that the Void Hunters had run out of Outer Rim worlds to consume. Their massive harvester ships, now numbering in the thousands, turned their attention toward the galaxy's populated core. Every major civilization found itself in the path of an enemy that had already demonstrated its ability to consume entire star systems. Admiral Kate Foster stood in the Earth Defense Command, a facility that existed partially outside normal space-time to coordinate humanity's response across impossible distances. The chamber around her had grown beyond any conventional understanding of architecture, its walls displaying real-time data from every corner of the galaxy. What she saw there would have broken the spirit of any ordinary military commander. The Void Hunters weren't just invading, they were learning. Each encounter with human forces provided them with new data about dimensional warfare. Their ships adapted faster than anyone had anticipated, developing countermeasures to weapons that had taken centuries to perfect. Worse, they were beginning to replicate human technology, turning humanity's own innovations against the galaxy they had sworn to protect. "Status report on the core defense grid," Foster requested. 93% operational, replied her chief engineer. "But we're detecting hunter ships massing at 7 different entry points. They're not coming straight through anymore. They're trying to flank us." Foster studied the tactical display, watching enemy formations that moved with a coordination that suggested a single controlling intelligence. The hunters had learned from their early defeats, abandoning the direct assaults that had cost them ships in favor of tactics that maximized their advantages while minimizing exposure to human dimensional weapons. "Signal all fleet commanders," Foster ordered. "Execute Omega Protocol. It's time to show them what we've really been building." Across the galaxy, installations that had been hidden even from humanity's recent revelations began to activate. The moon, which had already shocked galactic observers by revealing itself as a massive command center, underwent another transformation. Its rocky surface split apart along previously invisible seams, exposing the truth beneath. The entire celestial body was an artificial construct, built around a weapon that drew its power directly from Earth's sun. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Torres watched in awe as similar revelations unfolded throughout human space. Planets that had seemed to be simple colony worlds revealed themselves as massive weapons platforms. Asteroid belts that had appeared to be mining operations reconfigured into defensive networks that spanned entire star systems. The true scope of humanity's millennium-long preparation was finally being revealed. "Sir, we're receiving targeting data from the lunar array," his tactical officer reported. "The weapon is charging, but it needs 12 minutes to reach full power." Torres nodded, grimly. 12 minutes was an eternity in a battle where Void Hunter ships could cross star systems in seconds. His job was to buy that time, and the cost was going to be measured in ships and lives that humanity could barely afford to lose. "All ships, this is Torres. Form defensive screen around Sol. We hold the line here no matter what." The Void Hunter response was immediate and overwhelming. Their main fleet, which had been advancing methodically through the outer systems, suddenly accelerated to speeds that bent space-time around their hulls. Over 2,000 alien vessels, each one capable of consuming worlds, converged on the Sol system in a coordinated assault that dwarfed anything seen in galactic history. The first wave hit humanity's outer defenses like a tsunami of destruction. Hidden weapons platforms that had masqueraded as communication satellites revealed their true nature, firing beams of concentrated reality distortion at the approaching enemy. Void Hunter ships that had seemed invincible moments before found themselves trapped in bubbles of slowed time, giving human fighters precious seconds to strike at their weak points. But the Hunters adapted quickly. Their second wave came equipped with temporal shielding that neutralized humanity's time-based weapons. Their harvester ships began consuming the debris of their own destroyed vessels, converting the wreckage into new weapons and defenses faster than human forces could destroy them. In the depths of the Pacific Command Center, Chancellor Ward watched the battle unfold with the calm of someone who had prepared for this moment her entire life. The tactical display showed human losses mounting despite their technological advantages. The enemy they faced wasn't just advanced, it was learning from every exchange of fire. "Ma'am, we're receiving distress signals from the Centauri core worlds," reported her communications officer. "The Hunter flanking force has broken through their defenses. They're requesting immediate assistance." Ward closed her eyes briefly, weighing impossible choices. Every ship she sent to help the Centauri was one less defender for Earth. But if the core worlds fell, the refugees streaming toward human space would overwhelm their ability to protect them. "Dispatch the 7th Fleet to Centauri," she ordered, "and signal all civilian populations to begin emergency evacuation to the underground cities." Above Earth's surface, the sky began to change as massive structures rose from hidden installations across every continent. Cities that had appeared to house millions revealed their true purpose as they transformed into defensive weapons that drew their power from the planet's core itself. The primitive human civilization that the galaxy had mocked was finally showing its true face. Dr. Emma Hayes stood in her laboratory, now revealed to be part of a vast research complex that stretched beneath 3 continents. The archaeological artifacts she had spent her career studying were being used to calibrate weapons that operated on principles she was only beginning to understand. "Professor, the dimensional resonance frequencies are matching perfectly," Tom reported. "The ancient technology interfaces are responding to our current systems as if they were designed to work together." Emma nodded, understanding finally dawning. The artifacts hadn't been lost technology that humanity had forgotten. They were components of a system that had been built across millennia, each generation adding pieces to a puzzle that was only now being completed. "How long until the resonance cascade is ready?" she asked. 30 minutes for full synchronization across all sites. "But Professor, the power requirements are enormous. We're talking about drawing energy directly from quantum foam itself." Emma looked at the displays showing Void Hunter ships advancing on every front. Humanity had revealed its hidden strength, but it might not be enough. The enemy was adapting to every weapon, learning from every defeat, growing stronger with each world they consumed. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Wrath, working with human technicians in the command center, discovered that the Void Hunters had a critical weakness. Their ability to adapt and learn was controlled by a central intelligence network that connected every ship in their fleet. "If we can disrupt their communication matrix," Wrath explained to Chancellor Ward, Their individual ships will lose the ability to share tactical data. They'll be fighting blind. Ward studied the proposal carefully. What do you need? Access to your dimensional fold technology and a ship that can penetrate to the center of their formation. It's a suicide mission, but if it works, it could turn the tide of the entire war. Captain Torres volunteered immediately. The Prometheus had been designed for exactly this kind of operation, its dimensional drives allowing it to exist between realities where the hunter's weapons couldn't reach it. But the mission would require him to emerge into normal space at the heart of the enemy fleet, completely surrounded by ships that could destroy planets. The final assault began with the lunar weapon reaching full charge. The artificial moon that had been built around Earth's satellite fired a beam of pure energy that folded space-time itself, creating a corridor through the Void Hunter formation. The Prometheus dove through the opening, its hull phasing between dimensions as enemy fire tried to track its position. Torres emerged from fold space in the center of the Hunter command cluster, his ship suddenly solid and vulnerable in the heart of the enemy formation. The massive command vessel that coordinated the entire Hunter fleet loomed before him, its surface covered with weapon systems that could vaporize his ship in seconds. Firing dimensional disruptor, Torres announced calmly, knowing his words were being heard across the galaxy. The weapon he unleashed wasn't designed to destroy the Hunter command ship. Instead, it created a cascade failure in the quantum communication network that connected every Void Hunter vessel. In an instant, a fleet of perfectly coordinated predators became a collection of individual ships fighting without tactical support. The effect was immediate and devastating. Human forces that had been barely holding their ground suddenly found themselves facing confused, isolated enemies. Ships that had adapted to every human weapon were now cut off from the central intelligence that had made adaptation possible. The tide of battle turned in minutes. Void Hunter vessels that had seemed invincible began falling to weapons they had previously learned to counter. Without their collective intelligence network, they were powerful but not unstoppable. But Torres paid the price for his success. The Prometheus, surrounded by the wreckage of the Hunter command fleet, took damage that even its advanced technology couldn't repair. As his ship drifted powerless through the debris field, Torres broadcast his final message to the galaxy. The network is down. Finish them. The words became a rallying cry that echoed across every human ship and installation. Admiral Foster coordinated the final assault, using weapons that drew power from stars themselves to eliminate the remaining Hunter vessels. The enemy that had consumed galaxies was finally meeting its match in a species that had sacrificed everything to be ready for this moment. In the aftermath, as the last Void Hunter ship was destroyed and its threat eliminated forever, the galaxy that had once mocked humanity gathered to honor the species that had saved them all. Chancellor Ward addressed the assembled representatives, not as the leader of a primitive world, but as the guardian who had protected them when they couldn't protect themselves. For 1,000 years we bore the weight of galactic defense alone, Ward said. We accepted your laughter, your dismissal, your contempt, because we knew that someday you would need us to be more than we appeared. That day has passed, and we stand together not as guardians and protected, but as equals in a galaxy that belongs to all of us. Ambassador Wrath approached David Kim in the aftermath, his respect genuine and complete. I owe you an apology, he said. We all do. Kim smiled. The bumbling diplomat act finally laid to rest forever. No apologies necessary. You reacted exactly as we hoped you would. It kept you safe until we could reveal the truth. As the galaxy began the long process of rebuilding, humanity emerged from the shadows they had inhabited for a millennium. The age of deception was over, and the age of cooperation had begun. The species that had hidden their strength to protect others now stood openly as the guardians they had always been, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might bring.